Hello. I was watching yesterday talks recordings from Conch, and I was surprised to see a talk by Kamil Wahid. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. I worked with Kamil a little bit, and he has this talk about ClojureScript and how he came to ClojureScript from TypeScript. He was talking about React and front end development. And there was one slide where he mentioned some things about React that he likes, or like what's the future of React. And he also mentions UIX. And one thing that caught my attention is a mention of streaming with Suspense. And since I was working recently on some of the React 19 features for a future version of UIX, I actually realized that I forgot to work on server-side rendering on JVM. Right, I only ported or wrapped some of the client-side APIs, but I totally forgot about streaming, about a new way of server-side rendering in React. I mean, that's not a problem in React JavaScript itself when it's running on Node because it's already implemented there. But since UIX has a custom renderer for Clojure JVM, it means I'd have to port the entire thing implemented in UIX code. And let's try to do that. I mean, I don't have a plan. It's going to be a totally exploratory session. I skimmed through some documentation, but I don't know yet how to do it. And we'll probably go through some examples, explore the code, dig into React code itself to understand how the new server-side rendering works. And we'll try to implement at least some of it in UX. So there is a really nice discussion on GitHub in React 18 repo from 2021. So it's like 3-4 years old now. And it explains, so I guess React 18 was the first version of React where Suspense was added. And the whole idea here is that, okay, let's maybe start from the idea, right? What is new server-side rendering? I mean, it's not new, but it's like more performant, let's say. It delivers better user experience when server-side rendering. So if we scroll down, there is a good example of how traditional server-side rendering works with React. So you have an HTML page, or rather, you have a web page, and then you have your code. You have React components, and they're bundled in a single JavaScript file or something. And then when the bundle is loaded, everything is rendered on a screen, which means that while bundle is loading, while JavaScript is loading, you don't see anything on a screen. And depending on your network connection, on like the size of a bundle, users might be seeing this empty page for quite some time, right? So instead of doing that, you can, of course, server-side render your content as long as your components and logic is written in a way that can be shared between client and server. You can render stuff on the server when a request comes from a browser to your web server. You would call something like React render to string and render the component hierarchy, basically serialize it to HTML string and return it to the client. But now the problem is that we kind of improve the user experience, but if it's just serialization itself, it's going to be fast. But if there are any data dependencies, and in real world projects, you most certainly have them. Like you have to go to a database or maybe call in some integrations, external services. It's going to take time, which means now a user, when looking at their screen, they're waiting for HTML to be sent from the server. So they're waiting for all of the requests that are happening, all of the delays that are happening on the backend. And then HTML arrives, and then JavaScript gets loaded. So it's even more time now, right? So you will see already the content. It's not going to be interactive. You will have to wait for JavaScript to be loaded, but it takes more time. So, and the idea that they wanted to explore is what if instead of doing this sequential rendering, we will kind of parallelize it. So instead of waiting for data dependencies to be loaded on the backend, then HTML sent to the client, then JavaScript loaded on the client, then JavaScript actually what is called hydrated static HTML with interactivity. What if we can split this into chunks, separate static from dynamic, and load everything that is static immediately, and then load dynamic parts of the UI on top of it, or rather, not, let's call it not dynamic, but delayed parts of the UI that depend on the data fetched from the server. And that's an interesting problem, because if you think about it, how can you even, like, if you stream in an HTML string, right, an HTML document, and all of it goes to the client, but then you have some islands of HTML that wasn't ready yet. So how can you send it after the entire document was sent and then insert it in certain positions in the document? So it turns out the way they fixed it or implemented, when the server is streaming HTML, and once the static document is done, they would send where it is. There was a, yeah, I don't remember if there was an example, but anyway, the idea is that once the document is sent and data dependencies starting to resolve on the backend, you would send not only generated chunks of HTML, but also a little bit of JavaScript for this specific HTML that knows where to insert that HTML in the document that was already sent. I think this is a really clever idea, and yeah, that's basically how the whole partial streaming with Suspense works. Yeah, and of course, this is available only when you're using the Suspense components, because they are able to suspend rendering and render a fallback while data dependencies are being fetched inside of the child component that was passed, that's inside of the Suspense component. So there is a demo project. That we will explore now to understand better how it works. So if I reload a page, you will see that comments are loading, and then after some time they are loaded. And if we take a look at network, so there is our HTML document. And you will now see exactly what I said, is that we have an HTML document that starts with HTML tag, and then it ends with HTML tag. And this response was streamed, right? And then afterwards, after some time, you see that there is a little bit more of HTML is sent. And this div tag, for example, this is exactly the content that we see here in comments, has a special ID and the attribute that says hidden, which means browser will not render this HTML. It will remain hidden. And then there is a script. There is a script that takes an ID of an element, B0, I guess is this one, right? If it takes an ID of an element, it's like a slot in original HTML document where comments should be rendered. So that's where we see a spinner, right? This one is actually a spinner, right? And this is just a template tag which is not visible to the browser. So it's more like a placeholder. Yeah, so it takes the ID of that placeholder and the ID of streamed chunk of HTML, and then basically what it's doing, I think, like, there is quite a lot of code, not a lot, but I thought it would be just inserting your HTML, but they're doing a little bit more, maybe to handle some edge cases. But the idea is that you would take this DOM node and just duplicate it and insert here, and that's it. And yeah, if we take a look at the JavaScript code in the demo project, So there is a server, and what happens, where is it? Here, when we request an index page, it calls into a render function, and the render function is preparing some fake data on the server, and then calls, what is it? React DOM server render to pipeable stream. So that's the new API. It takes a component to render, an element to render, and then a little bit of configuration. So you can handle errors, you can do something with response, I guess, with a stream when the shell is ready. And I guess a shell here is the first document, first static part of the document. And then, yeah, I can probably inject some scripts or something. I'm not sure yet. Right. So then there is something called data provider. Okay, so that's just React context providing some server rendered data to the app. And assets is an object of, okay, static assets. And if we go into a component, those assets are passed into HTML component, which renders HTML string, HTML document itself with head and body. Okay. And then it also renders a script with asset manifest. Where is it? Is it here? Yeah, it's right here. Not sure how it used. Probably needed for this bundle. I don't know. All right. Yeah, and of course you see that we have suspense component used for multiple components. It's a sidebar, post, and comments. But when we load the page, it's only comments that are delayed. And that happens because none of those components actually suspend rendering. They do not depend on any data. They do not fetch any data. But the comments component is using this use data hook, which actually returns a value from the context, and the value from the context is this data value that returns an object with a read method, and there is a promise that's delayed by some time, like a couple of seconds. And so when we read this promise from inside of comments component, which is wrapped into a suspense boundary, that this what basically makes React to suspend rendering of this component until this promise is resolved. All right. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting is that the way how Suspense works on the client, it's not like magically capturing that there is a promise in a child component and it has to suspend rendering. You have to actually throw a promise. So Suspense is like a try-catch that catches throwable values, and in case if it's a promise, it's going to catch it and wait until the promise is resolved, and then it will switch from a fallback to the child component. So that's also a really interesting idea, how you can drill a value from bottom to the top. All right, but for UIX, I want to start with something simple. Let's probably try to repeat this behavior. Let's render a little bit of HTML, and then with a delay, send a chunk of HTML and inline script that would insert HTML into the document, and then we can actually integrate that with the library itself. So first of all, I have a project. This is UIX DOM package, and UIX DOM server CLJ namespace implements serialization of UX components to an HTML string. And you can see that right now I have here a render to string, render to static markup, render to stream, and render to static stream. So maybe actually render to stream is fine. We can reuse it. I don't know, but yeah, let's start with let's set up a web server first. I don't think that I have any code that already is doing that. Yeah. So I'll probably create like a dev directory, and I'll put there something like example core, right? Dev, okay. And so here we will do UX DOM server, and then we will also need UX itself. Dev UI and element. All right. Oh wait, why is it not core dev? All right, let's put it here. Extra path dev, and I will need an alias. All right, so we'll do basic component h1 hello world, and then we can do DOM server render to string, right? App. Okay. So let's fire up an RPL. But I need to, right, first I need the alias. Right. Okay. So now we have a string of HTML. And yeah, we need a server. We need a server. Clojure ring web server. I don't do a lot of backend development with in Clojure, so it's probably gonna take me some time to set up a basic server. And I don't know, like for some reason I find it really, really hard to set up a really simple web server, HTTP server in Clojure. I don't know, maybe it's because of the number of packages, but I just find it easier for myself to do it in Node.js. Maybe because I've done it like a million times before. I don't know. But yeah, I don't like, where is it? API docs. I need an example, like something that I can just copy and paste from documentation. Where should I go? Getting started. Okay. Okay. Yeah, actually, I will need a streaming server, right? Let's ask, how can I set up a verb server in Clojure that can stream HTML to a client over HTTP. Let's see if it's gonna help us. Okay, so it's using Jetty and creates piped output stream, and it's using Clojure Core Async. All right, I will not read it, and I will assume that it works. So let's try it. Okay, so how can I? God damn it, it's not a link. Okay, ring core depths. Ring core. Is that the latest? No, it's not the latest and greatest. All right. So let's require all of that. Okay, I'll have to restore the REPL. Alright, CoreSync is probably not loaded. Oh, GT adapter is not available. Is that a separate package as well? Right, okay. Ring Jetty adapter. Yeah, that's also what I don't like, is that you have to reload, you have to restart the REPL to pull in new dependencies. I'm complaining a little bit, but I think it's for good. I'm just complaining about user experience. Okay, let's try again. Right, and now we're missing CoreSync, of course. CoreSync, Clojure. Do I actually have to use CoreSync? I don't know. Over the years, I learned that it's better to avoid CoreSync when possible. Okay, okay. Now everything is fine, and yeah, let's do this. Right, let's yeah, we'll need a writer, and okay, I'll copy the whole thing here. All right. Okay. Let's see. What is this? Macro expanding proxy. Okay. Piped output stream. The error message is not telling me anything. Like okay, there is unexpected error, but what is exactly unexpected? Get super an interface. Like I no ideas, honestly. Does it want me to like implement everything, or huh? Yeah, AI is not helpful here. Clojure ring streaming web server. Wow. Streaming HTTP web server. Right. Yeah. HTTP streaming example. Oh, here it is. HTTP kit. I mean, if it's gonna work, then it's great. There is an example that I can just copy paste, right? All right, let's go with HTTP kit then. Right. Oops. Yeah. Okay. So probably don't need all that code. All right. So I need, HTTP streaming example. First call of send sends an HTTP status and header to client. After the first send a chunk to client and then close. Okay. Let's see. HTTP. Yep. Okay. And we'll put a handler here with channel. Is it like, oh God, no, it's not. Where it's coming from? Huh. Wait, is it a package or? Why is it not able to find, wait. HTTP key is here, right. Maybe the version is wrong. Oh, okay. Where's channel? Channel? No. Oh God. Let's see. HTTP key west channel. Okay. So there is a deprecated. Prefer as channel. As channel. This one. And so I need a server. Server as channel request. Yeah. Can I just replace it like this? What's the signature of it? S channel ring request on open. On receive, on close, on open. Interesting. Okay. Sync handler. Okay, so message from server, channel closed. All right. How does it work? Like this, right? So it takes a channel and server send channel and then string of HTML, I guess, right? Okay, let's try that. Where's the REPL? Oh, and we need to close the connection eventually, right? I guess, because otherwise it's not gonna work, or maybe it will still work. Anyway, let's try it now. No server. Oops. What? App? Okay. Right, so it should be running on a local host. Okay. And let's see. Right. Okay, so connection is auto closed. Nice. So I guess now we can now we need to introduce a delay and then send more information to the client, right? There was, wait, how do I do it? Should I do like thread slip for like 2 seconds and then send the string again? Oh, I have to restore the server, right? Because I needed to pass it as a reference instead of value. Okay. Interesting. Is it just closing a channel? When unspecified, close after send defaults to true for HTTP channels. Oh, okay, so it's auto closing here. So we need to tell it that please do not close connection here, but then you can close it right here. Okay, nice, nice. So there was a delay of 2 seconds, and we can take a look at the timing. That content download took 2 seconds, a little bit more than 2 seconds. That's because we have a delay, right? Boom. Okay. So now let's, yeah, we have both HTML H1s here. Now let's play a little bit with it and add add a placeholder and then inline some JavaScript to kind of render stuff into the placeholder on the client. So let's say we have an H1 here, and then we add like this template tag with ID here. So then what? That's going to be the app itself. And then we will need, for example, like a button or something. Right, I mean, on-click doesn't exist here. So we will do the app first, then after 2 seconds, we'll render a button, but it's not only the button, but also additional HTML, right? So we could do something like define with, I don't know how to call it, with insertion. And it takes a component. It's gonna render the component and also will append script tag with right. Oh, nice. A string of jQuery. Yeah, it's exactly. We want to insert an string of HTML, but what it should be. We know the ID. The ID is here. So we need to do document query selector here. And then what? Then we need to take the button right? And insert the button into this element. Which means probably want to wrap this button into an element and give it ID from here. Right, actually, we have a syntax for that. So that's going to be query selector here, append, oh, not append actually, but we want to replace, right? We want to replace the node. So replace the same from here. Oh, and it needs to be hidden, right? Hidden true. So, okay, but we don't want the element itself. We want a child element. So we'll take children first, and then we have to handle if there are multiple children. I think this should work. Let's try it. With insertion, and then here. Oops, didn't work. Replace is not a function. Huh. I thought there is. There is a method called replace. Replace child. Oh, replace with. Okay. Okay, let's try it again. Boom. Nice. Okay, it worked. So first, hello rendered. The template is rendered and it's empty. And then, oh, why is it D, not dev? Oh, that's me. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's I'm still amazed by this trick. It's never occurred to me that you can stream not only HTML but bits of inline JavaScript and it's gonna work. All right. Yeah, actually, maybe. Yeah. Instead of doing it this way, we could say, like, take inner HTML of it and set inner HTML, right? So we don't have to handle elements one by one. Inner HTML, inner HTML. Let's try it again. Oh wait, now it didn't work? Oh, of course, because we need to replace the template. Right. Huh. Interesting. Why is it a template? Because it's not visible? Can it be just, div hidden true? So we have it document query selector here in HTML, and then target equals this one, target inner HTML, and then target hidden. Oh, yeah, it should be a replacement. Anyway, let's leave it like that and can fix it later. Replace with from here. Okay. All right, it works. So now how to integrate that with UIX.